Shalom, Israel. Welcome again to Watchmen of the Faith Ministries. And I want to continue where I left off at. Okay, the title of this show again is called The Good Seed. And we left off with Matthew, or the book of Matthew, the 7th chapter, 15 to 20. And we're talking about the corruption, the corruption begins with the seed. So it's very, very important, again, that we understand, again, that there's two forces at work here. And the scripture that I want to go to is the book of Luke. Okay, Luke, the 19th chapter, and I'm going to read verses 41 to 40. Let's try 45, okay? And when he, which is the Messiah, was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, if thou hadst known, we're talking about Israel here now, because, again, there's a lot of misunderstanding in what's going on here in these absolute last days. And again, like I said, we're living in the absolute time of the end. We're living in the time of where this harvest, this gathering can happen at any, well, it can't happen at any time. It has to happen at that appointed time. But just to let us know that the time is very, very crucial, extremely crucial. In understanding, okay, the redemptive role of the Messiah is very, very important. I can't stress that enough. And Yahushua is saying now is that if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, I'm talking about Israel here now, thy day, this day belonged to you. At least in this thy day, okay, the things which belong unto thy shalom. I'll read it again. The things which belong into thy peace or thy shalom. It has here an exclamation point, but we know now that there were no periods and question marks and things like that. But I understand, the translation, and we all do, okay, that special emphasis a lot of times need to be put on words. Because it says again, if thou hast known, even thou, at least in this day, the things which belong unto thy shalom, but now they are hid from thy eyes. This is the reason why we have the situation that's going on now, is where there's not a difference is not being put on the clean, okay, and the profane. Everything goes now. Every single thing goes. This is the reason why we must stand up bold, especially in these last days here, as commandment keepers. Commandment keepers, keeping Torah. That's going to be the key to us making it out of this last captivity here. Keeping the commandments. And I guarantee you, I'm willing to bet the farm on this, is that if there's one righteous, just one, that's righteous here, the Most High will preserve it. If only one is righteous, only one. Not one that is righteous is going to not make it out of this last captivity here. It's not going to happen. There's a reason why I'm saying this now. Just hold on a little while longer. For the day shall come upon thee that thine enemies now, because we already brought out in Genesis 3:15 that there's going to be enemies. And some of those enemies look just like me and you. They are of the biological seed of Israel. Okay? Of the biological seed of Israel. Because of the seed that's in them. Alright? They're not producing good seed. And any tree that doesn't produce good seed, it will be cut down. That thine enemy should cast a trench around about thee. Now again, I'm keeping everything in its proper perspective. Now, we also know now that there are other enemies that consist outside of the nation of Israel. But an enemy can also be a person that's not warning the sheepfold, okay, that the destroyer is coming. He would also be considered an enemy. Our responsibility as Israelites is to warn, okay, the sheep when it's time to move at its appropriate time. Because what's supposed to be happening now is that, now that we got the instructions, thy enemy should cast a trench about thee, okay, and compass thee round and keep thee on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, that's death, and thy children should be laid even with the ground, with the ground, and with thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because, so we're going to understand the reason why, because thou knewest not the time of thy redemption, deliverance. Read it again. Because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation, thy redemption. Now that this is said, now we have to make sure that we understand every word of the Messiah. None of the words of the Messiah is idle words. I'm going to say this. Every verse, okay, in the Bible is a seed. I'm going to say it again. Every verse in the Bible is a seed. And we better make sure that we understand exactly what's going on in these last days and try to put it in some type of chronological order, because we have to blow the shofar, the trumpet. Now, when the Messiah said this, that Jerusalem was going to be overthrown, at the appointed time, Israel had to know when to leave. But the bad seed, or this disagreeable seed, did not warn the sheep. All right, it didn't warn the sheep. Now, with that being said, I want to go to 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, 44 to 46. Because what I want to establish here is that natural things are being used to explain spiritual things. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to go to 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, 44 to 46, and I want to explain that natural things are used to explain spiritual things. This is the reason why I always say, okay, I like to go into the higher principles of understanding the scripture, and as they call the Peshat, the Remez, the Dresh, or the Drash level, and the Sod level, because there is spiritual principles that we need to understand with the scriptures. Just like I made mention of trees. Trees can also mean people, king. The sea can also mean people. So again, the Messiah is talking to us in agricultural terms, but those agricultural terms are used to help us to understand higher spiritual principles. All right. So let's go to 1 Corinthians without further ado. 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter. I'm going to read 44 to 46. It is sown a natural body first. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. So the natural is first, okay, then comes the spiritual. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. 45. And so it is written, okay, in our script, and so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Now, verse 46 is going to explain verse 45. Howbeit, that was not first which is spiritual, which was Adam. Like I said, the natural things explain the spiritual things. And that's the reason why the Messiah always said, listen, how can I teach you spiritual things when you can't even understand the things that's right in front of your face? We're talking about the basic level of understanding our people can't understand. Now, I'm talking about collectively. And I'm not saying this now to mock or make fun of anybody, but what I'm saying now is that it's time for us to really step our game up and understand exactly what's going on here in these absolute last days. And understanding now is that when I say everything, brothers and sisters, I mean everything. Every single thing can be explained in the feast days. The feast days are very, very important. Let me just touch on that. I'm gonna go back to 1 Corinthians. I just want to prove that. Matthew, let's go to the 24th chapter. The 24th chapter. let's see here where I want to start off with. Let's see. Bear with me 1 second. Let's let's go to the 31st verse. See if I can bring something out here. Bear me 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Okay, 31. And he shall send his angels or his malak with a great sound of a trumpet. And so a trumpet is used to warn a person of danger. But we see the significance of the trumpet, especially in the seventh month. The seventh month is called the Sabbath month, okay, the month of Tishri. And what we have happening in the seventh month is the memorial blowing of the trumpets. Then after that, we have the Day of Atonement. And then after that, we have the Feast of Tabernacles. So when it says now, he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, that word great is very, very important because the seventh month is so important. It's the Sabbath month, if you can see what I'm saying. It's the Sabbath month. It's not like what happened in the spring feast, but the seventh month is the month where the Messiah Sukkot, he tabernacles with his people. So that great trumpet that's going to be sounded, when will it be sounded? It will be sounded in the seventh month, the month of the harvest, the end of the harvest. A great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together. And the word gather, when does the gathering process happen? The gathering or the ingathering happens in the seventh month. The seventh month. And they shall gather together his elect. The elect will be the wheat. The tares is not the elect. And I'm going to get into that a little bit deeper. Okay, I just don't want to jump the gun too much, where it talks about the tares in the wheat. But the elect would be the wheat. That's who the elect is. And they should gather, okay, together his elect from the four winds, from one end of Shayin, which is the heavens, to the other. And then it just goes on with verse 22 and verse 33. I'll read it. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When its branches is yet tender and putteth forth leaf, you know that summer is near. So likewise you, when you shall see all these things, we're talking about all these tribulations and things like that, because we're talking about that harvest, the ingathering. When you shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. At the doors is representing the Messiah. We know that the Messiah is near. That door is representing the Messiah. The Messiah is the door. So we know that the coming of the door, which is the Messiah, is near. Now, going back, okay, with 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, 44 to 46, I'm explaining now is that the natural things are first. Then after the natural comes the spiritual. So we have to make sure that we understand spiritual principles. Let's see here. 46. Howbeit, that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and after that which is spiritual. So the natural first, then the spiritual. The first man, which is Adam, is of the earth. He was earthly, okay, carnal. The second man is of the Father from heaven, and that's Yahushua. With that being said, now let's see if this can be explained in descriptive detail in the scripture. We have now, this is what we have. We have Adam, the natural man, and we have the spiritual man coming next. So first was the natural, was Adam. The second man, which was spiritual, which was Yahushua. We see another incident of this situation happening again with Cain and Abel. With us understanding the story with Cain and Abel, The natural came out first. The person that came out first was Cain. He was the natural. Okay? He was now the disagreeable seed. Okay? Cain was a disagreeable seed. Then after Cain came out the spiritual, which was the good seed, the agreeable seed. We see the situation happening again between Abraham and Sarah and Hagar. We have now the natural coming out first, and the natural was Ishmael. He was the natural. He came out first. Then afterward came out Isaac. Isaac was the spiritual. So again, when we go back to the scripture, it talks about verse 46, although that which was not first, that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterward that which is spiritual. And then verse 45, let me go up a little bit. And so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The first Adam was made a quickening spirit. Then I'm going to go up again. Verse 44, it is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there's a spiritual body. So you should see where I'm going at with all of this. Again, Ishmael was natural, then came out the spiritual, which was Isaac. And then we had the same situation again with Jacob and Esau. Esau being the natural man, the man of the field, which is the same characteristics that Hashatan had. He was more subtle than any beast of the field. And Esau was also a man of the field. He was natural. But after the natural came the spiritual, which was Jacob. Okay, so again, the natural comes first, then comes the spiritual. Now, another Hebrew word that I want us to be familiar with, because I talked about the word Zera, Z-E-R-A, which is in the title of this show called The Good Seed, Hatov Zera. The word Zera, again, means sperm or seed. Now, and the other word that I want us to become familiar with is the word Aran HaKodesh. All right? And the word Aran HaKodesh only means holy ark. And what's important about the holy ark is that the Torah, okay, is in, okay, the holy ark. And the reason why I'm bringing this out, because I found it very interesting, and what we have to really understand is that we as Israelites, okay, we do have a language, okay, and I'm not a big fan of Yiddish, all right, at all, because again, I truly don't believe that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob spoke Yiddish, okay, with these vowel points and these dots, what they call the geshes, but I do need a point to start from. So, as far as my understanding goes, and I don't want to mislead any brother or sister. So I say Yahuwah and I say Yahushua. I say those words, okay? I do. But I just want everybody to understand that I'm talking about the power of Israel, okay? That's what I'm talking about here. We have a culture, we have a language, we have a history that is very, very important. And these things have been stolen from us. And it is our responsibility, okay, to take back those righteous things that was stolen from us. That's our job. And this should be our pleasure, because it tells us that in the book of Proverbs. Let's go to that right quick. The book of Proverbs, the 25th chapter, and I'm going to read the second verse. It says, it is the glory or the Shekinah, okay, it is the glory of the Father to conceal a thing, okay, but the honor of kings is to search out the thing. Now, what I found important with that word thing or matter is the Hebrew word davar. Davar. So I can easily read this now because I'm not changing anything in the scripture. It is the Shekinah, which is, in the Shekinah is the Messiah of the Father to conceal a saying or utterance. But the honor of kings is to search out the saying of the utterance. All right. So again, I say all of that to say this. It is our job and it's our responsibility to make sure that we search this thing here, the utterance, the saying. Because again, every verse, okay, is a seed. And we have to make sure that we understand exactly what's going on in these scriptures here. Now, again, I'm talking about the Aharon HaKodesh, which is the Holy Ark. And within inside of the Holy Ark, we have the Torah. Now, it was our custom, our tradition, okay? And there's nothing wrong with a tradition if it doesn't compromise the law. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you don't try to condemn a person through your tradition and say that, listen, you know what? You're going to go to hell because you're not doing it this way. That's not what I'm saying here. Now, it was a custom now that on the Sabbath day, on Shabbat, what we would do now is that we would take, okay, the Torah scroll from out of the Aharon HaKodesh. And everybody should know what a Torah scroll is. I mean, it's based upon two spindles, and then in the middle, okay, it just have the Torah scrolls on it, okay? And what happened now is that we would take the Torah scroll from out of the Ark, the Holy Ark, and we would just display it, you know, before the people to see, listen, this is the Torah. This is what we need to follow. That's all what that is, okay? And again, what's inside of the Holy Ark, okay, or the Aharon HaKodesh is the Torah scroll. And there was a prayer, okay, that we would pray when we brought this out on the Sabbath day. And I just want to read that prayer. Okay, what I'm going to do, okay, I'm going to read this in Hebrew, all right, according to the way they have the Dageshes and the vowel point system. And I'm just going to say off the bat, okay, excuse me, okay, ahead of time, if the pronunciation isn't exactly the way that you pronounce it. I'm just going to do it the best that I can, and then I'm going to read it in English, all right? So that way, you know, there's no, oh, brother, you said that word wrong, it's pronounced this way. Okay, to clear up everything, I'm going to say off the bat, I'm going to do it in Hebrew, and then after that, I'm going to read it in English. So this is the prayer that was prayed once you brought the Torah scroll out of the, what we call the Aharon HaKodesh, all right? Etz Shayim, Hai Lama, Chazik Imba, Vetom Keha, Ushar, Derash Eha, Deresh Loam, Vekol and Tevo Teha, Shalom, Heshevinu Adonai, Elecha Ve Nesheve, I'm going to say it again, Elecha Ve Nashuva, okay, excuse me, Nashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh, Yamenu, Kodesh, Yamenu, Kadim. Now, this is how we would pronounce it or say it in English. Now, this Torah scroll, all right, it is a tree of life to those who take hold of it. So the it is referring to the Torah. It is the tree of life. And the Messiah is also that tree of life. It is a tree of life to those who take hold of it, and those who support it are praiseworthy. And when it says support it, we are the covenant keepers. Okay? We walk according to the laws, statutes, and commandments. We support it. We condone every single thing that's written in the scripture. We condone it. We support it. Its ways are always ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Bring us back to the Father, bring us back to you, and we shall return, renew our days of old. Okay, so that's all what that means there. And I just found that very, very interesting as I start to, read a lot of our history and our customs and things like that. And I just want all of us to know that we do have a custom And there's nothing wrong with us embracing our custom. But we have to understand, okay, as we already know, when we do read how to take the meat, okay, and take hold on it. But the bones we throw out. It's just as simple as that. Now, what I also want to bring out too is Luke, the 8th chapter, the 11th verse. Luke, the 8th chapter, Luke 8 and 11. So that we can make sure that we understand exactly what's going on here. And what I had talked about earlier about the Father being the sower that sowed the seed, if you read Luke, the 8th chapter, that'll explain why I said what I said. Okay, and plus I'm going to go into that a little bit later on in future series that I do. But again, Luke, the 8th chapter, 11th verse says, "Now the parable is this." This is the parable. The understanding of this. The seed. And again, the title of this show is called Hatov Zera, the good seed. Now the parable is this. The good seed is the word of the Father. And so what we have to do now is look at this word seed. Who is the good seed? The good seed is Yahushua. Who sowed the good seed? The good seed was sowed by the Father. And again, I'm going to say is that the Father sent the Son. Okay? That seed. The seed was planted in the earth. It went through a germination process, meaning that the seed died. And just like my brother Lamad Yahoo brought out, which is correct, is 100% correct, because I like studying the human genome. I was in the medical field for a long time, so this thing is very, very interesting to me. I love genetics, love it. And so now, when we have now the master gene, okay, the DNA, okay, deoxyribonucleic acid, when it sends out that RNA, the ribonucleic acid, that RNA is a messenger gene. The DNA sends the RNA, the messenger gene, into the earth or into the woman. It now dies. But what's interesting now about this RNA gene is that it resurrected again. This seed here that was planted in the earth by the DNA, the master gene, it was planted in the earth and it died. Now, it had a message. That RNA gene had a message. And that message was the word. And what was that word? That word was the Torah. That was the message of the RNA, okay? The RNA was the seed. The seed was Yahushua. Yahushua is the good seed. And so now, when it was planted in the earth, in 3 days and 3 nights, okay, it went through a germination process and it came forth out of the earth and it became a tree of life. That tree of life was in the Garden of Eden. There was another tree that was also in the midst of the garden, and it was called the tree of good and evil. And that tree of good and evil is called a mangled seed. That's Nakash. All right. Now, again, verse 11, it says, now the parable is this. We have to make sure we understand the parable. The seed, which is Yahushua, which is the RNA, is the word of the Father. What is the word and who is the word of the Father? The word of the Father is the seed. So we see now here, the Father is telling us that the Messiah is the seed and Yahushua is the seed. And so we have to make sure that we understand this. I am the vine and you are the branches. It is our responsibility to show forth the praises and the Shakidah, which is the glory of the Father in the world. That's our role and that's our responsibility, Israel. We have a responsibility. Okay, again, the fruit is merely a reflection of the seed. And who is the seed? The seed is the Messiah. And with that, brothers and sisters, I say shalom. Peace.